Thank you. I'm going to give a quick update on the project costing. Just to go over first of all, sorry, how the costing has been done at this stage of the project. As the project has evolved, the level of detail of design, as you've seen, is greatly advanced since the last time we were here. So the ability to get more accurate pricing and go out to market and actually talk to trade contractors, suppliers, equipment manufacturers to get accurate pricing is much more available to us. So what happened this time is we had both the construction manager and the design team do two independent estimates, both at a Class B level. Once those estimates were completed, the estimates were compared line by line. There was a review to analyze where there was any significant discrepancies between those two estimates, a team discussion to evaluate which one aligned best, if there were scope differences, and a common consensus amongst the design team and construction team on a final consolidated Class B estimate. And the numbers that are presented in front of you reflects that consolidated cost estimate. So the first two items, just a reminder that what we presented tonight is the building and the immediate site around the multiplex, but there is a second component to this project, which is the access road, the site servicing, the parking, and the commercial development preparation work. So the first two numbers reflect, one, the building and site that you've seen. The second number is that greater site development servicing parking area that will be developed by the city directly. So the overall number, including the discounted HST that the city incurs, is $84.9 million at this point. And I would pause for questions.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah. Maybe not. Thank you. You know, I mean, it's unfortunate. I think you've provided good context in the sense that, you know, it's the inflationary environment and many of those factors. It's unfortunate it took so long to secure the funding. Maybe we wouldn't be in quite such a drastic position, but we are where we are. And I do know that maybe someone, Darren, you could speak to it, but it was referenced in last evening's briefing that all those costs have escalated. You've also found some efficiencies in the design and saved some money that way. Maybe you could speak to that, Director Rao.
Sure, thanks, Your Worship. So over the last couple of months, I guess, since we got the construction manager on board, you know, Bird Construction is you know, actively, you know, as projects currently are actively working on. So we're getting, you know, they know their trade prices. They're working with their partners on that. You know, just a simple example. Back in August, we had a rough example of the refrigeration unit that we're putting in here was $1.5 million. You know, move ahead 2 months, I think, you know, two and a half months, and that price has gone up to $2.5 million. So it went up $1 million in 2 months. You know, this is what we're seeing. It's very unfortunate, but that's the reality in the construction industry. That, you know, the prices are just, especially that specialty stuff. You know, these most construction has doubled in the last 2 or 3 years. So, you know, a good example, Bird Construction, they bid a seniors home 2 years ago, you know, for about $35 million, and you know, they just recently bid the exact same building, you know, in pretty much the exact same location. It's now you know, 55 or 56 million. So it gives you an idea of what we're facing. You know, we don't anticipate those costs are going down. We really can't wait. You know, it's unfortunate. Now, some of the things we're doing is meeting with Bird and going through that. We've actually, you know, through selecting different materials that are more readily available here in the Maritimes, we've, you know, I think we've shaved off $3 or $4 million in the last two months here. So, you know, we've been working hard to not compromise the quality of the building and the look, but it's at the same time looking hard at different materials and trying to come up with some good value. So that's the reality, unfortunately. You know, one thing we're doing is, you know, they mentioned before, is the pool contractor. You know, that was one thing we identified. You know, there's only a couple of people in Canada that can build this pool. We focused on that right away, you know, with our construction manager, was a key component that we jumped on and got the trade package out. We met with the guy today and we secured him, in the midst of securing him the next few days, to get him lined up for the summer. Otherwise, if we had been a couple more months behind, their plate was full, we would have had to wait a year. The project would have been stalled a whole year. So that would have added even more cost to it. So we're the team, we got a great team here. We are working hard to realize, trying to keep this cost down, but unfortunately, the reality is it's a huge challenge. Now, didn't really get into it, but these trade packages, the majority of this facility will be secured, the procurement secured by the spring. This building will be completely designed and the trade package secured by the spring, so we'll have, the costing will be more secure, I guess, is some good realization for council as well, too. So, thanks, Your Worship.
Thanks, Director Rao. Director Gorman, Treasurer Gorman, I'm looking at you. I know, that certainly you would have a finger on the pulse of where and how we might be able to look at different levers to make up the difference, and I certainly want to give you the opportunity to speak to that now.
Sure, thank you, Your Worship. So, yes, as we were saying, it's definitely unfortunate, but we have to find a way, right? If we have no other alternative. So, I've been looking at the numbers, and by year end, we should have a minimum of 24 million in capital reserve, and we were originally looking at 18 million. So we could use take another 2 from reserve, so that would bring us up to 20 million. Long-term borrowing, we were looking at 19 million, but we are well below a maximum of, so I'll get into that after, but so we could borrow 24 million, so that would be an additional 5. Capital from revenue, if we can tighten up spending, we can find some operational efficiencies and some other revenue streams, and that would free up looking at maybe 1.2 million per year for both 2025 and 2026. And then there's also the Canada Community Building Fund, which there's 1.3 million available for each annually, so we could use 2025 and 2026 and use that 2.6 million towards the multiplex as well. And so that's the tentative plan for now.
Thank you. Wow. I mean, I think it's worth reminding the public that we have been planning and saving for this moment for years, even before many of us have been in these seats. And so thank you for highlighting that. And of course, we've also talked about looking at new revenue streams that we could consider as well. And we know that there's a lot of commercial property that is going to become available around the property. So that could also be an additional revenue source also. But thank you for that, Director Gorman. Are there any other questions or comments from members of council on any? Tim, were you finished, or is there more presentation? That was it. Okay. Are there any other? Yeah, Councillor King.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tim, just a question I have about. It's good to see North Shore Construction in there doing some work, hiring local people. I'm talking about trades people. Will our tradesmen get a chance to bid on these jobs, or do we go that far? Like Bird Construction is looking after it, but will they hire our local tradesmen?
So I don't want to speak for Bird, but we've had a number of conversations around the importance of looking at contractors and labor force within the area. And I think the intention is on this and any project, the more local and regional labor and firms that you can engage to do work, it's better for the project. It's easier for people to get to the site. It's easier for people to get engaged. I know that the construction management portion is responsible for what we would call the general conditions. So that's things like site fencing and dewatering and cleanup and rough carpentry services and all of those types of work. So there'll be rentals, there'll be equipment purchases, there'll be other things that will have a positive impact on the city. And we fully anticipate that there are a number of organizations and individual labor forces that will have the opportunity to get engaged from the city of Miramichi and its immediate area in this. So I say that, and I will also say that there are some specialty contracts and the scale of the project doesn't necessarily align certain trades and certain skill sets to what's available immediately here in Miramichi area. But within the greater region, you know, Moncton, Bathurst, St. John, you know, we see a lot of the trades coming from New Brunswick. We don't see a lot of trades necessarily coming from outside of New Brunswick, other than a few very specialty ones, such as the pool contractor, which we talked about earlier.
Very best, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King. Seeing, no, oh, Councillor Placey, yeah.
Thank you, Worship. Can you go back a slide there, Tim? Just the cost considerations, like the location. I don't know if that was hit on, but was there an increase in cost related to the location?
The context that we were given last evening was not the location within Miramichi, but Miramichi's location within being a smaller center. I don't know, Tim.
Yeah, so there's inflationary pressures across the construction sector. I mean, it's in the news every day, every week. This is not the only project to see costs going up as a result of the industry being busy, labor availability, supply chain issues. Some of those are getting, I would say, less bad than they have been in the last couple of years, but we're not seeing any sort of decrease. We're just seeing less increase in those. But what that is really referring to in location is that unfortunately areas outside of sort of those larger urban cores have been hit a little bit harder in terms of those inflationary pressures and labor shortages than those urban areas. So Miramichi, not specific to the site, but Miramichi or the region, it's a little bit trickier to get the labor, materials, and everything that you need here that are already, you know, pressed in those larger urban areas.
So seeing nothing further, I will thank Tim and the